Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to OLC TV for some more Total War 3 Kingdoms animated essay series looking at the argument against Liu Bei, and this is part 2 of this essay. So, in the argument against Liu Bei, or do not believe all you read in romance, today we're going to be following on from where we left off in the last one, and we are going to be focusing solely on one aspect, but we're going to be looking at it in quite a lot of detail, and that is his becoming Cao Cao's personal retainer and his first betrayal. Now, for those of you who saw the first one, you will see that I did put, as a sort of betrayal, him leaving Gongsun Zan, basically taking a bribe from Tao Qian and a promotion from Tao Qian to come work for him and leave Gongsun Zan's forces. However, although this could be seen as a betrayal, it's not as big a betrayal as the one he did to Cao Cao. And I explain this because, although he does leave Gongsun Zan for money and troops and a promotion, he is also, he's moving from Gongsun Zan to one of Gongsun Zan's allies, and they're still fighting together on the same front in the same war. So I don't see it as like a major betrayal, and you could argue as well, though there's no historical record of this, but the details are all sketchy at this time anyway, exactly of how things were discussed. But you could potentially argue that Gongsun Zan would have agreed to such a move anyway, because Tao Qian's forces were not particularly good, Tao Qian had some internal troubles as well, and Cao Cao was putting a lot of pressure on Tao Qian. So sending a trusted soldier with a number of good soldiers alongside him to go and aid a trusted ally is not a bad idea from a strategic perspective. Maybe he knew it was going to be a permanent move, maybe he didn't, maybe he felt, my friend deserves promotion, I can't offer him that. Who knows exactly what happened? But there's enough of a grey area there to say that Liu Bei probably didn't outright betray Gongsun Zan. However, what he did to Cao Cao is undeniably a betrayal. So we're going to be breaking this down into 4 parts. First of all, his facing destruction by Lu Bu, because of course, immediately after Lu Bu is smashed by Cao Cao, Lu Bu flees to Liu Bei, and that creates a whole load of problems for Liu Bei in Shu province. Then we'll be looking at how he became governor of Yu province. We'll be looking at the Girdle Decree, the assassination plot, and the retaking of Shu and losing it again. So, here we are, 196 CE, a couple of years after the end of the last episode. So very briefly, what has happened in that time is this. Tao Qian has died, Liu Bei has claimed governorship of Shu province. This is not an official promotion for him, he is merely taking control of it. He is supported by the nobles, he's supported by a great swathe of the people, so he has taken control of Shu province. This isn't a slight against Liu Bei, this happened all the time during this time. Every single major player of this period is guilty of ignoring the Han government to take control of provinces for their own ambitions. And Liu Bei has done the same. Cao Cao has dealt with a rebellion against Lu Bu and beaten him, and Lu Bu has sought shelter under Liu Bei. Yuan Shu, on Tao Qian's death, also claimed control of Shu province, and this has led to frictions between Liu Bei and Yuan Shu, where previously they had been, Liu Bei had not been directly allied with Yuan Shu, but Liu Bei had been working for people who were allied with Yuan Shu. He is now breaking up what had been an alliance by those two competing for who has control over Shu province. This led to a war. It was a very indecisive war, but whilst Liu Bei was away fighting that war, leaving Zhang Fei in control, he loses the majority of the province to Lu Bu. On returning from his campaign from Yuan Shu, he is beaten soundly by Lu Bu in a battle, and in desperation, he swears allegiance to Lu Bu and surrenders. So that is where we are at this moment in time. Now, even though he has surrendered to Lu Bu, and Lu Bu and Yuan Shu have a friendship and budding alliance growing, Yuan Shu still wants to destroy Liu Bei. However, Lu Bu does not want this to happen because for strategic reasons he believes that Yuan Shu would then be able to outmaneuver him and get rid of him, so every time this happens, Lu Bu goes to protect Liu Bei, and every single time this happens it's resolved peacefully. However, there is something going on in Lu Bu's court, and it's this. Lu Bu's commanders do not trust Liu Bei one bit, and they are speaking to Lu Bu all the time, saying, we can't really get close to Liu Bei. He's very difficult to befriend. We don't know where his head's at. We don't know what his ambitions are. Yes, he's sworn to follow you. Yes, he's surrendered to you. But will he really accept this? Remember, you stole his province, not the other way around. Why should he believe you? And eventually, he is a little bit too ambitious. You did nick his province. We don't think he's going to be truly faithful to you as a subordinate. You're probably going to need to kill him. So, Liu Bei, being one of the dumbest individuals around at this period in time, thinks the best way to deal with this is through the most undiplomatic means possible. And that is to rock straight up to Liu Bei, speak to him face to face, and say, my generals are questioning your history of changing loyalties. So, this is important. Liu Bei has questioned Liu Bei about his continually changing loyalties. Liu Bei, the man who has killed Ding Yuan, the man who has killed his father figure, Dong Zhuo, his sworn father, Dong Zhuo, and betrayed countless people, is questioning Liu Bei, the virtuous, the loyal, about his continually changing loyalties. Now, he has a right to do this. Liu Bei has history. Now, you might think, for Liu Bei, I mean, come on, mate, you stole his province. Of course Liu Bei is going to be pissed off with you. Of course Liu Bei is going to seek to reclaim it. That's sensible. I don't blame Liu Bei for any of his actions against Liu Bei. That is just logical. However, he does have a history of continually changing loyalties. He starts off with his own private command and he works as a mercenary for the Han state fighting against the Yellow Turbans, after which he works as a mercenary again for the Han state but as a subordinate to Gongsun Zan to defeat Jiang Chun and Jiang Zhu. After that, he's given his first civil commission. In the civil commission, he beats the crap out of an imperial officer who is sent to demote him. Now, whether you agree with the demotion or not, it is Liu Bei who publicly beats him, not Zhang Fei, and then he flees because he knows he's committed a crime. He reappears in Pingyuan working for someone else in a similar position, where he fucks up and disappears into the wilderness, reappears somewhere else in Pingyuan, gets bribed, ends up working for someone who's giving him a little bit more money in Pingyuan, before deciding he wants to join the coalition against Dong Zhuo. He then decides, no, I don't want to join the coalition against Dong Zhuo. I'm going to head up north to help Gongsun Zan. Do what exactly? What is Gongsun Zan doing at that time? He's defending the northeast and he's about to attack Han Fu. That doesn't sound like working for the Han state. So he heads up to Gongsun Zan. After fighting for Gongsun Zan for a couple of years, he ends up being given an offer of a promotion, some money and some troops from Tao Qian, and switches sides. So Liu Bei has actually switched sides many times and more times than Liu Bei, and he's already picked up a reputation for switching sides. A reputation that is so bad for his loyalty that Liu Bei is questioning it. Okay? That is the state we're in 196 CE. This isn't good for Liu Bei. However, Liu Bei is smarter than Liu Bei. Liu Bei's dumb, so Liu Bei says, no, of course I'm loyal to you, but I'm worried about your generals. They might be plotting against me. I'd be better off in a separate area. So Liu Bei agrees to this and sends Liu Bei off. Now, Liu Bei is right to worry. If Liu Bei's generals are continually saying to Liu Bei, you need to kill this guy, then he needs to defend himself. So Liu Bei speaks to the Mi clan and raises 10,000 troops. Of course, when you start to raise 10,000 troops, it doesn't go unnoticed. So Liu Bei goes, ooh, he really is trying to betray me. And sends him out of Shu province. He chases him out of Shu province after a very quick and brutal battle. Liu Bei flees all the way to Xuchang, the capital, Cao Cao's capital city, where Cao Cao has very, very recently taken control, partly controlled, of the emperor. He has saved the emperor from Luoyang and brought him back to Shu. Now, Cao Cao doesn't have direct control of the emperor, and this needs to be understood. Actually, at this time, there is a chap called Dong Cheng, who has the majority of the control of the emperor. He is the emperor's most trusted advisor and will continue to be so for many years. Cao Cao, at this moment in time, is vying for control. He's building up his power base. He does not have control of the emperor like he would sort of post 200 CE. So we can't think that Cao Cao has massive control. And this is important because Liu Bei swears allegiance to Cao Cao and swears fealty to the Han Emperor. Liu Bei did not have to swear allegiance to Cao Cao. He could have sworn allegiance to Dongcheng. He could have ignored Cao Cao and joined the imperial army, worked for the Han Northern army that had fled to Shu. So it's quite interesting for me that he chose not to work for the Han state, but instead to work for Cao Cao. Because Cao Cao at this time was not the prime minister he would become. He doesn't even have the same titles and power as Yuan Shao at this stage. He's just a governor. So for me, when I look at this, I think, why is Liu Bei swearing allegiance to Cao Cao, not the Han state? If Liu Bei is supposed to be this Han loyalist, why isn't he working for the Han? Why is he working for a warlord? And one can only think it's because of what happens next. Cao Cao gives him troops, gives him money, and treats him extraordinarily well. He lets him ride around in the same chariot as him. They share a mat when they eat and at meetings. And he says to Liu Bei, do you know what? Here's an army. You've lost 10,000 men. I'll give you some troops. Go back to Xiaopei. Take control of the land that was once yours. Keep an eye on Lu Bu, and if you can, beat him. That's the only reason I believe that Liu Bei is doing this. Because if he doesn't have ambitions, if he doesn't have his own personal ambitions, why doesn't he become colonel of, the rapid as tiger infantry? Why doesn't he become a colonel of the elite cavalry garrison? Why doesn't he work for the Han army? It doesn't make sense. Why doesn't he become a Han courtier? It doesn't make sense. He doesn't want to be part of that world. He wants his own independent lands. So he's taken up Cao Cao's offer and gone back to his lands to fight against Lu Bu. Skipping forward a couple of years, tensions between Liu Bei and Lu Bu have really grown. They've been skirmishing, raiding with each other, and Lu Bu has decided Liu Bei finally needs to be crushed. So he tells Gao Shun and Zhang Liao to lead an attack against Liu Bei, who's based at Xiaopei, and get rid of him. Cao Cao hears this is coming and asks Xiahou Dun to raise a force and go to his rescue. The armies meet. Liu Bei is heavily defeated and has to flee for his life, abandoning his family. Xiahou Dun, who probably hasn't arrived in time to play any significant role in this campaign, helps Liu Bei escape, and they all return to Shu province. All return to Shu city. Gao Shun now has control of Liu Bei's family, who he brings to Lu Bu. This, of course, is very disappointing for Cao Cao, because Cao Cao has now lost a swathe of territory that he had recently gained. So he quickly gathers together his army, and in very, very early 199 CE, he leads the attack out against Lu Bu. They fight a campaign. Liu Bei is very, very active in this campaign. He works very closely with Cao Cao. They defeat Lu Bu, and they execute all of the traitors who have turned against Cao Cao in the previous rebellion, as well as Lu Bu and Gao Shun. After this, everyone returns to peace. Liu Bei is given a serious promotion at this time. He is made the Marquis of Yi, I believe, which gives him a state income. So he will always receive this income from the emperor, and he is also, on Cao Cao's memorial, Cao Cao has recommended he be promoted to governor of Yu province. Now, Yu province on this map is very difficult to show up, but it's essentially Runan and Yingchuan together. But of course, the way this map works, Yingchuan and Runan are not next to each other. The Three Kingdoms map is not 100% accurate, of course. So he becomes governor of Yu province. This is an official position. This is actually official. He was not governor of Shu province officially. So he is now governor officially. We should note as well, Cao Cao is not a stupid individual, as we all know. So Cao Cao is not going to put Liu Bei in charge of Shu. Shu hates Cao Cao. They like Liu Bei. So Cao Cao does not wholly trust Liu Bei. He wants to give him a reward. He has officially made him a governor, and he's put him in charge of one of the richest provinces around. Like, Liu Bei is doing good out of this, doing really well. But he recognizes that to put Liu Bei in Shu province would mean that Liu Bei would become a threat. So it's a little bit clever by Cao Cao. And you think, Liu Bei has had his promotion, he now has his independent realm. Except it's not independent, he's a subordinate to Cao Cao, and he knows this. 200 CE comes. Liu Bei has had his promotions, he's doing very well. And I should note, at this stage, we don't know exactly where Liu Bei is. We don't know if he is in Shu province, which of course is where his family were. We don't know if he's moved his family down to Yu province. We don't know whether he's staying in Shu with Cao Cao, in the capital with Cao Cao. We don't know where he is. But what we do know is that there's a thing called the Girdle Decree happening at this time. And this is a plot to kill Cao Cao. Essentially, the theory is that the emperor has a note written that is then sewn into his girdle, that is then taken out and shared between some senior officials, some military generals, and it says the emperor wants Cao Cao killed because Cao Cao is becoming too powerful. That is the theory. There are other theories which we're going to discuss in a second as well. But it's important to note that Liu Bei is suggested to have been part of this plot. Now, whether he was part of the plot we'll discuss in a second, but first let's look at the individuals who are the main ringleaders. Number one is Dong Cheng. Dong Cheng is the ringleader of this plot. 100% he is the ringleader of this plot. He is the power behind the throne in the imperial household. He is related to the imperial family through Liu Xie, and he's an uncle of Liu Xie. And he is his daughter is a concubine of the current emperors. Now, Dong Cheng has been the emperor's close confidant since they fled Chang'an. He has been close to the emperor, and he has always had his power protected. Every time Cao Cao has had a promotion that may have threatened Dong Cheng's power, Dong Cheng has had a similar thing happen so that he always maintains a balance. The emperor has always maintained a balance between Cao Cao and Dong Cheng to make sure that neither one of them had too much power. This, of course, leads to rivalries. And Dong Cheng and Cao Cao definitely do not get on with each other. And Dong Cheng 100% wants to get rid of Cao Cao so he has complete control. Cao Cao definitely 100% wants to get rid of Dong Cheng so he has complete control. So we can believe, actually, that there's a very strong possibility, as some historians have posited, that the emperor did not write that decree, and Dong Cheng did. And this is backed up when we read the records of the Three Kingdoms. Chen Shou states in Liu Bei's that it was written by the emperor, but in Cao Cao's that it was not written by the emperor. This is a contradiction, which of course Pei Songzhi calls up and says that Chen Shou was not very good in his job at writing a contradiction. But the truth is, we do not know who wrote it. Chen Shou has his own bias. Chen Shou has a bias towards Liu Bei. He's a former Shu man, and he has a bias towards Cao Cao because when he's writing these records, he is working for the Wei government and the Jin government. So he has a vested interest in making both of them sound good, and in writing this, he has managed to achieve the same thing. He's making Liu Bei sound good, like he's doing something for the state, and he's made Cao Cao sound good by saying the state isn't the thing that wanted him dead, it was a rebellious Dong Cheng. So we will never know the truth, unfortunately. But we do know that there was the plot, and it was backed up by not just Dong Cheng, but some serious players like Zhong Ji, who was the commander of the Chang River Regiment, Wu Zilan and Wang Zifu, who were big players within the court, and apparently Liu Bei as well. Now I state apparently Liu Bei, because if Liu Bei was not in Shu, the capital, and he was off in Xiaopei or Xiapi or in Yu province, then there's no way he could have been part of this plot. And that makes what he does next to Cao Cao a lot harsher and makes him seem a lot more mercenary and a lot more ambitious than otherwise. If he was part of this plot, you've got to think, why? Under Cao Cao, you have been given promotion after promotion. You've had your family saved. You have a state income. You've been treated like a trusted friend. You have even been recently promoted to be General of the Left under Cao Cao, one of Cao Cao's highest military positions that he could award to anyone. Liu Bei has had it all, and all because of Cao Cao. So why would he betray him? Why would he be part of this plot? For this, there is no answer. There are only theories. My personal favourite theory is this. If Cao Cao is dead, he no longer has to swear allegiance to anyone. He just swears a nominal fealty to the Han Court. As governor of Yu, he will have his own province that's very, very wealthy to deal with. Yuan Shu is on his last legs at this stage. He would easily be able to mop him up. He has loyalty in Shu province as well, which has decent food supplies. He could become one of the biggest, most powerful warlords in China with no one to stop him in a flash if Cao Cao is dead. With Cao Cao alive, he has no control, because even though he's governor of Yu province, he's governor of Yu province in Cao Cao's name only. That is my personal belief. There is no written evidence, and we will never know, because this is getting into the mind of an individual. I don't believe he is doing anything for the good of the state. In the same reason, I don't believe Dongcheng was doing this for the good of the state. This was a rivalry between two people who were after control, nothing more. This wasn't Cao Cao exerting his authority over the emperor and the emperor not wanting it. This was a rivalry within court that happened time after time, in country after country, across history. And it was always going to come to a head, and it was one that Cao Cao won. Now, Cao Cao had Dongcheng, Zhongji, Wu Zilan, Wang Zifu, and other members of their families and the plot executed. Liu Bei was not executed. Now, this suggests a couple of things. Liu Bei could have not been executed because he wasn't in the city at the time. If he wasn't in the city at the time, he definitely wasn't part of the plot. So it makes sense. Another thing is that he was so close to Cao Cao, he heard that these people were going to be arrested and executed, and so he managed to get out in time. But for me, that doesn't quite make sense, because if that's the case, then how does he petition Cao Cao for troops? He petitions Cao Cao for an army to go and block Yuan Shu a little bit later on. So why would Cao Cao ever give him those troops? It doesn't quite make sense. So what I think happened was that, because we never know 100% with the timings and everything else, I think that Liu Bei probably was part of the plot, because it makes sense for him to off Cao Cao so he can do his own thing. But I think before the plot was found out, and I don't buy the story about them sitting down for a meal together and Cao Cao admitting he knows about the plot, and Liu Bei drops his chopsticks. I don't believe that story at all. Had that happened, Cao Cao would have just had Shu Chu chop Liu Bei's head off there and then. So I don't believe that at all. What I do believe is that even though Liu Bei was part of the plot, he saw an opportunity, and he wanted to be out of the city whether the plot went down and was successful or failed. So what he did was this. Yuan Shu was in really big trouble at this stage and wanted to flee north to Yuan Shao to re-establish himself up there and work for Yuan Shao. So what Liu Bei suggested was that he and a general called Zhu Ling could go down to Yuan Shu and block him from being able to head north and therefore rid Cao Cao of a threat. And Cao Cao agrees. So Liu Bei and Zhu Ling go south, and I personally believe it's during this time that Cao Cao then finds out that Liu Bei may have been part of the plot, because this is when Cao Cao's advisors come to him and say, why are you letting Liu Bei go off with troops? So he sends troops to go and stop Liu Bei, but of course it's too late. Yuan Shu has died, Zhu Ling has returned, and Liu Bei, instead of returning, swings north into Shu province, executes all of Cao Cao's governors, and reclaims the territory and declares a rebellion against Cao Cao. There is no reason for him to declare a rebellion against Cao Cao except to be independent. Cao Cao has given him his own province. Cao Cao has promoted him. Cao Cao has provided state funds for him. Why has he done this except to fulfill his own ambition? This is not for the state. This is not for the state. If it was for the state, he'd take his army back and he'd kill Cao Cao, or he would have stayed. He certainly had opportunity, being that close to Cao Cao. Had he wanted him dead, he had opportunity to kill him. So yeah, I don't buy he was doing it for the state. I believe he was only doing it for his own ambition. He goes to Shu, retakes Shu very, very quickly. Cao Cao is absolutely livid that he's lost this stretch of land. When people betray Cao Cao, Cao Cao does not forgive. So, Liu Bei knows that an attack is coming. He sends his advisor Sun Qian to go and speak to Yuan Shao and try and persuade Yuan Shao to attack Cao Cao. Cao Cao and Yuan Shao's relationship has really deteriorated, but Yuan Shao does not, for a variety of his own reasons that affect the governance of his own province and the fact he's still fighting rebels in the north. So he does not attack, and Liu Bei starts to panic. Cao Cao, however, is distracted by the fact Yuan Shao is preparing to attack, even if he can't attack on Liu Bei's own timeline, so he is busy building up the defenses that become part of the Guandu campaign. So he sends off some generals over to deal with Liu Bei. Unfortunately, these generals are completely hammered by Liu Bei, and they're killed, and so Cao Cao thinks, right, I've got to deal with this myself. Now, Cao Cao, the way he worked was he had commanders who had small groups of troops, but he always had the larger army himself under his direct control, always throughout his whole life. So Cao Cao decides, okay, well, I'm leaving some key people, Yu Jin, Yue Jin, Chong Yu, etc., to guard against Yuan Shao. They'll be able to hold if Yuan Shao comes early. I'm going to take Guo Jia's advice, and I'm going to crush Liu Bei. He takes the army and he launches a lightning assault. Now, Liu Bei holds Shu province from the point of entering it with his army in rebellion to the point when Cao Cao beats the hell out of him and forces him to flee. He holds it for around 6 months. This is a pretty disappointing rebellion. And Liu Bei has again had to flee for his life so quickly that he has left behind his family and Guan Yu. So Guan Yu is left in Xiapi with Liu Bei's family, and he promptly surrenders to Cao Cao. And this is where we leave it for now. Liu Bei has been given everything by Cao Cao, but despite that, he has betrayed Cao Cao, executed a number of Cao Cao's trusted men, destroyed one of Cao Cao's smaller forces, and has now made himself a mortal enemy of the person who is to become the most powerful man in China. So the aftermath of what happens. The aftermath is this. After Dongchong has been killed, Cao Cao takes complete control of the Han court. Liu Bei has become a sworn enemy of Cao Cao. Cao Cao is very good at dealing with people. Guan Yu has not betrayed him. So Guan Yu was a subordinate of Liu Bei. So he treats Guan Yu very, very well. He also treats Liu Bei's family very well. Cao Cao was not known for executing the families of men unless he really had no other option. So he treats them rather well as well. However, and this is the big thing, Liu Bei has fled to Yuan Shao, and Liu Bei is now acting as a military advisor to Yuan Shao. He doesn't take part in frontline fighting, because if he does take part in the frontline fighting, he assumes, probably quite rightly, that Guan Yu and his family would be executed. So he's there in the backlines helping organize, giving tactical advice to Yuan Shao as they prepare for the Guandu campaign. Guan Yu, of course, is now a general of Cao Cao's, and you will see him being right next to Cao Cao in all of the battles to come before he rejoins Liu Bei, in the same way that Cao Cao was doing with Liu Bei previously. Cao Cao keeps his newly acquired troops very, very close. He keeps him, in fact, right next to Zhang Liao, who has also very recently surrendered to him. So you see them very close together, working for Cao Cao, under the watchful eye of one Xu Huang, who has earned his trust and his loyalty. And Xu Huang and the likes of Cao Chun are there just to make sure that if Guan Yu and Zhang Liao step out of line, they can be put down very, very quickly. That's how Cao Cao operated. Right. Coming up in the next episodes. So, firstly, joining Yuan Shao. He is treated very well by Yuan Shao as well, but he still betrays him. We're going to discuss how, and a couple of theories why. We've got the politics of Jingzhou. So after his failed attempts to incite rebellion in Yu province, Runan, where Cao Cao had made him governor, he ends up going to Jingzhou, where he's part of Liu Biao's court. Now, Liu Biao did not trust him at all, and we're going to be looking at the efforts Liu Bei made to take control of Jingzhou. After that, we'll be looking at the Battle of Red Cliffs and his alliance with Sun Quan and the liberties he took with it. Then, how he defended Liu Zhang from Sun Quan, only to be invited in to say that he's going to help Liu Zhang, but instead of helping him, taking all of his territory and essentially kicking him out of his homelands. And then, of course, his declaration of emperor. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I really hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please feel free to drop a like and subscribe down below. Also, if you don't agree with my ideas, because some of this is just me reading into the history and trying to read between the lines, I don't say that I'm 100% correct with this. There are certain facts that are indisputable, but my ideas about why Liu Bei is doing what he does, that is entirely opinion. based on circumstantial evidence that can be read in multiple different ways. If you have a different idea, please feel free to leave it down below as well. I love hearing from you. I especially love hearing and discussing different opinions to my own. I find it fascinating to hear what you guys have to say. So please feel free to do that, and I look forward to seeing you for the next one. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.